Awesome. All right. So, welcome to this webinar and case study where basically what I'm going to do today is just run through how I built my online meditation coaching business to 6 figures in under 2 years without a social media following. So, I'm actually just going to riff on this one. Sometimes I do these webinars and I have like a script and I have a plan and I have like everything like organized. But today I actually don't have that. And I have done that intentionally, right? I actually ran a live workshop the other day where I did a similar kind of setup. I kind of had an idea of what I was going to do and I just riffed on it. And what I found was really cool was that there was just different things that came up at different points where, because I didn't have like a set agenda, I was able to just like dive deeper into certain things as they kind of like coming up into my awareness. So that's what I'm going to do today. But we are going to cover like 3 main points. Really, there's 3 points that I wanted to cover today. The first thing is going to be what I really believe is the most important thing to have success in a business, especially in like the spirituality or healing space, or this kind of like mindset space, self-development space. Something that I feel is really important and that a lot of people get wrong. I'm going to talk about that as we begin. And then I'm also going to talk about, my journey, what shifted for me in the beginning, right? In the beginning, I had like this poverty kind of mindset. I had a lack mindset. And I really struggled with charging for my services because I had like a low level of self-worth. So I'm going to actually talk, and I also had a bad relationship with money back in the day. So charging for services, which was like fully reliant on me as a service provider, was like a barrier that I had to break through. And so I'm going to talk about that today as well, and how I actually managed to shift into way more confidence and a more abundant mindset, which I think is very, very important. How I shifted my relationship with money, and especially in charging for my services. So that's going to be another thing I'm going to talk to, because I know a lot of people struggle with that sense of identity, like not feeling good enough or feeling like a bit of resistance to charging, good money for your services. I'm going to talk about that. And then I'm also going to talk about some tangible things, right? Those first 2 things are going to be non-tangible. I'm going to finish off with some tangible business strategies and actions that you can, or that I took to grow the business, right? Really, really simple stuff that I do on a daily basis. I did it for the last few years. I still do it every day. I'm going to talk about that. So I've also got a few tabs open in another screen. And when I feel like it's the right time, I'll share those with you and just kind of walk you through some of the tools that I use, processes I use, and a bit more of like that time management, productivity side of things as well. But firstly, I want to get started with just the one thing that I believe is important to have when you're in this space. And this is one of the things that a lot of people don't have, right? It's emotional intelligence. And that's because a lot of people I see in this space don't do things when they don't feel like doing things. You hear a lot of people in the spirituality healing space, definitely like way too emotional, right? Like, I do believe it's important to have an emotional connection, but when we're talking about growing a business, when I'm talking about how I built my business, I did a lot of things when I didn't feel like doing things. You know what I mean? Whereas some people will not do things because they don't feel like doing things, right? They're too emotional. In a lot of ways, our emotions have actually become like a handicap. Right now, I talk a lot about emotion with my clients. We're doing a lot of emotional work, a lot of emotional intelligence work. But when it comes to doing things that need to be done, don't use emotions as an excuse, right? That was one thing that I had to really get used to, right? If something didn't feel right for me, it didn't mean turn away from it. It actually meant explore that within myself. Why does it not feel right? Am I actually right in my thinking here? Or is it a limiting belief which is causing me to not feel like this is a good thing to do? So in the beginning, right, charging money for my services, it didn't feel comfortable to do that in the beginning. Right? It felt a little bit uncomfortable to do that in the beginning, but I didn't let my feelings stop me from doing the thing that I needed to do to actually achieve the results that I wanted to achieve in my life. And that's one thing that I have seen across the board with so many people in the spirituality, healing place, self-development. It's they can't get over their initial barriers of doing things when they don't feel like doing things. So this is essential for success. And you'll hear any kind of business owner talking about that. But I think it's really pivotal for me as well, right? I see different coaches and stuff that I've been working alongside over the last couple of years, or even therapists, like a lot of therapists as well, right? Are doing this. They're kind of like, doesn't feel right, feels like out of alignment, and so they're not doing it. But one of the things I really encourage people to do, and what I did myself, is actually just like lean into those things a little bit more, because it could just be that you're not willing to get comfortable with your own shadows, right? With your own kind of insecurities. It could be that those things are actually keeping you blocked, keeping you stuck, right? You've probably heard the saying before, if you don't do things differently, you're just going to get the same result, right? If nothing changes, nothing changes. So in that kind of perspective, it's better to question, for me, it was better that I questioned myself and I actually leaned into some of my fears and my insecurities. And through doing that, I was able to overcome them, to push through them, right? Whereas if I hadn't have done that, if I had gone, oh no, I'm not going to do this, this feels scary, it feels like weird, it feels, then I wouldn't have made any progress. You know what I mean? Because I would have been stuck like in that same pattern of doing what I had always done, which was turning away from things that were uncomfortable, right? So I'm actually suggesting that you lean into the things that are uncomfortable. That's what's worked for me. And that's what I believe has been like really pivotal in my success, right? Growing our business up to 6 figures in 2 years, I feel like that's a pretty good, that's a pretty solid run. You know what I mean? A lot of people I talk to haven't been able to do that, right? In my mindset, I'm also thinking, like, why didn't I do better? Like, why couldn't I do better than that? But that's just a personal thing, right? The point here is, the thing that got me to that is like taking action even when I didn't feel like it, showing up even when I didn't feel like it, doing the things that I didn't even feel like doing. Hugh, what's going on, man? Just talking about the number one thing that I think is important for having success in this space. And I know you're getting you're getting into this space at the moment. Hugh's actually a client of mine. We actually just got off a call probably like half an hour ago. So we were talking about we were kind of talking about this, right? I was saying to Hugh, there's going to be some certain things that you need to do to start and grow your business. And sometimes that can feel like a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes it can feel like a little bit comfortable. Sometimes emotionally, there might be some resistance to doing those things, but it's about pushing through that and just making it happen, right? One thing that I believe is important is having a connection between your head and your heart. So this is the thing, right? A lot of people are too much connected to their heart when they get into this work. And that might sound funny. I mean, what do you mean? Like, isn't it good to be connected to your heart? Yes, it is good to be connected to your heart. But you have to have a balance between your heart and your head, right? It can't be just like everything in the heart. The heart is a good leader. The heart is the best leader for making decisions, but you need to actually be able to integrate your mind into like the process of making decisions and doing things, right? I find the heart is kind of like this feminine aspect of the work. It's the emotional aspect of the work. And that's important. You've got to have that. You've got to have compassion. You've got to have your intuition. You've got to you do have to feel like you're doing the right thing that you want to be doing. But then you also need to integrate the head, right? The mind, the logical side of things, the processes, the frameworks, the strategy. If you can have your heart and your head connected, you can have the masculine aspect, which I believe is the mind, and the feminine aspect, which is the heart. If you can have them working in harmony together, that is what will make you succeed. Now, the problem is, like I've mentioned a few times already, people are way too feminine in business, especially in the spirituality and healing space, right? What I mean is like the people who aren't successful at doing that. So don't be like that, right? Don't be too feminine, because you'll only get so far. I'm not saying that you can't do that. You can, like, it'll work to a degree, but I don't think it's going to get you where you really want to be. You got to have an integration of the masculine and the feminine, the mind and the heart, right? The being and the doing. Got to integrate those two things, and that's really what I believe is going to lead you to success. So that's kind of the first step that I wanted to talk about, right? Second step is I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of my story. I didn't want to rave on too much about my story, but I'm just going to give you a bit of background and a little bit of context. So when I first started doing this, I was the person that I just described to you. I was someone who was too emotional, like too like airy fairy, like woo. Like I had my little spiritual awakening in 2020. You know, I've been meditating since I was like, you know, a lot younger than that. I was 17 when I started, and I've been meditating for like 10 years before then. But I went through a lot of different struggles with like drinking, addictions, you know, my own sense of self-confidence. I was a people pleaser. I was anxious. I was, leaning on drugs and alcohol and always trying to keep everyone else happy. Even though I was meditating, I felt like I had self-awareness, and yet I was still doing all of these things that weren't really serving me. So the first thing for me was like overcoming all of those issues. And that took a long time, a lot of meditation, a lot of self-awareness, but then also just a decision, right? A decision to be different. That decision that I made that really shifted things for me was when I went sober for a year in 2019. I was coming off the back of like a big breakup with a long-term relationship, ended in 2018. And then I actually got fired from one of my, like a job. I was working in Sydney in a marketing job. And after the breakup, I was going and hanging out with these guys that were in the office next to me, and they were all doing, you know, all sorts of things that I shouldn't have been getting involved with. But I was. So I lost my girlfriend, and then I lost my job. And then I basically, you know, sold all my shit, and I went to South America and went on this, like, I'm going to South America kind of thing. And I actually went to Antarctica. That was my whole goal. I was like, I'm going to Antarctica, fuck it. So I went to Antarctica, but on that boat over there to Antarctica, I was on the piss because I met a whole bunch of Australians, right? And so I was still just drinking and just like self-sabotaging and just ruining myself. And I remember very vividly, like this was the moment that changed everything for me. I remember getting off the boat and being like, I had just gone and done this epic Antarctica trip, got off the boat, came back to mainland, and I was just so hungover because I had been on a bender with the guys on the boat the night before. And I remember being in the middle of the street, and I had no money. I was totally alone. I was hungover. And I just remember going, fuck this. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is fucked. I just had this trip of a lifetime, and I feel like shit, and I feel so alone. And I just feel like a horrible person. And I knew in my head, like I had a level of self-awareness where I was like, why am I doing this to myself? And so that was when I decided to change. That was when I went sober for a year, and that was in 2019. And that changed everything for me. I started hanging out with different people. I was in different environments. I started hanging out with, you know, more positive people, started to go deeper into my self-awareness, deeper into my meditation practice. And eventually that led me to doing my meditation teacher training. And so that was kind of like a divine synchronicity for me, where it just kind of happened. And it made sense after over a decade of meditation at that point. So I did that. At that point, I was still quite airy-fairy, right? I had this kind of spiritual awakening experience as well, that kind of like, I feel like opened me up a lot, but also made me very kind of like, I was in like that other dimension where I was like, very, ooh, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but it was very airy-fairy, very like spiritual and a bit woo-woo, not really grounded in anything like physical or like real. Not that that's not real, but you know what I mean? It wasn't grounded in reality. And so then I did my meditation teacher training, and I started, you know, running workshops. I started running classes, and it was all very kind of, like woo-woo at that point. I was very feminine, and I was just like, I was going with the flow, and I was doing things. My first coaching program, I created my first coaching program through waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning every single day for a month. It was in the middle of winter. I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I would go and meditate for an hour. And then after that, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. Then I would journal, and I would basically journal until the sun came up. And the question I was asking myself was, what is my medicine? And that was kind of like, I was still in that intuition, right? I was like, okay, cool. I want to create a coaching program. I need it to feel like something that I would want to do. So I made this coaching program, and that was the way that I did it. I did it through asking myself this question, what is my medicine? And basically the things that were coming out while I was doing that was the lessons that I had learned, the big shifts that I've had, all the processes or frameworks that I had learned through my meditation practice and through other kind of self-awareness and self-development work that I had done. And I kind of put all that together into a journal, and that was my first program. It was called the Activated Human Program. And at that point, it was very feminine, right? It was like all of that was coming intuitively and in a feeling state. Now I think I charged $888 for that when I first ran it. And I ran that seasonally for about a year. So I ran this program called Activated Human seasonally for a year, and I charged $888 for it. The first one I had, I think I had about 8 or 10 people on there. So it was like actually pretty like good, like $8,000, something like that. And then every one after that, the people that came on got less and less and less. And now this is when I started to switch into my masculine frame, because I started to realize, right, 8,000 sounds pretty good. But if I'm running that seasonally, that's $8,000 for 3 months, right? And so that's actually not that good, because like 2,000, 3,000 a month, right? Maybe 3,000 a month. So, that's actually not that great. And then that was the first one. I had a full thing. The second one that I ran, I had less people. I had like 5 or 6. And then the third one that I ran, I had even less. I had like 3 or 4. And so each season, I was actually earning less and less and less from my coaching. And this is when I realized I can't do it like this. This is not the way to do it. I need to be like a bit more logical about it. I need to go, okay, cool. If I'm going to, run these coaching programs, I need to look at, okay, what am I going to be earning on a monthly basis? And I need to charge for my services so that I know what I'm going to be earning on a monthly basis is going to be meeting my goals. And I was a person who really wanted that 10K a month goal. That was my dream. That was my reality. So I worked backwards from there. So we're going to get into a little bit more of the logical stuff now. I said, okay, cool. $10,000 a month is what I want to be earning. So what does my program need to be like? What do I need to be charging for my program to make that a reality? How many clients do I need a month to make that a reality? And I basically worked backwards from there. And I also asked myself questions like, how many of these can I actually deliver? Like, how many hours a week do I want to be working to actually deliver this program? Right. So those are all things that I was thinking about, which are really good to think about. One thing that I highly recommend is reverse engineering your goal. So whatever your goal is for your business, it's like get that end goal in mind and then reverse engineer it. Cool, 10,000 a month. Okay, that's, if I'm charging, at the time I was charging $500 a month for a 6-month program. So it's pretty affordable actually, right? $500 a month for a 6-month program. And at that point, I was doing weekly sessions. So $125 a week is what it ended up being. 500 a month over 6 months was $3,000. And so I knew if I had 20 clients paying me $500 a month, then that would be 10,000 a month. And that was my first milestone, right? And I just worked until I hit that. I'm just going to rewind a little bit before I go into too much more of the strategy and logistics of it. Just let me know if this is helpful. Just drop in the chat box 111 if this has been helpful so far and that you guys are following along. So before I started, so there was this transitional point, right, where I went from charging $888 for my program, which was an 8-week program, to then charging $3,000 a month, right? For the program, sorry. So that's a pretty significant price increase, right? I increased the price by like 4 times. So one thing that helped me shift from that mindset of like, oh, I can't charge more than $1,000 to I'm now charging $3,000 was this. I needed to shift my relationship with money. At the time, I thought about like money, and I thought about people. I went through this process with one of my coaches where we were shifting the ideas around money, because I know this is a big one for a lot of people, right? So I went and I thought about money, and I thought about who when I think about money, who am I relating money to? And the people that came up for me at the time, like Scott Morrison, Gina Reinhart, Clive Palmer, like when I was thinking about money, I was thinking about these people. And so for me, I had this negative dissociation with money. Money means Gina Reinhart, right? Money means Clive Palmer. That was kind of my thinking around it, right? So I was like, no wonder I don't want to earn a lot of money, because I don't want to be like them. So what I actually had to do was start to understand polarity, right? The polarity of life. So I had to actually ask myself, okay, well, like what would happen if I actually learned how to accept those people? Because I had a lot of like anger towards those people. I was like a bit of an environmentalist, bit of a hippie, kind of like that. So I was like, oh man, these guys are mining, the government, all this kind of stuff. Like I don't want to be like that. I don't like those people. I hate those people. I'm angry at those people. And so inside of me was a lot of this anger, like hatred. I despise them. And that means, and I also associate money with that, right? So for me, there was this whole negative dissociation with money and with rich people. And I thought they were all bad and I hated them, and anger and all these kinds of stuff. What I realized was that all of those feelings were inside me. So I'm talking more about the emotional stuff here as well, right? The emotional intelligence and overcoming your own blockages. I had to realize that I was the one that was holding on to the hatred and the anger and the frustration. It wasn't, they don't care. They don't care about how I feel, right? So I need to own my own feelings, and I need to take responsibility for my own feelings, and I need to neutralize my own feelings. So the coach I was working with at the time, he was like, okay, how about you just learn to love those people? And I was like, what? It was like such a foreign concept for me. I was like, how could I love them? Like, they're fucked, right? But he's like, no, well, you got to like at least accept them, because all of this anger and all of this like frustration is within you, and you're going to be helping people and coaching people and all this kind of stuff. So how can you have all of this judgment, all of this anger, all of this frustration within you, and be helping other people come up into a place of like peace and love and, calmness and confidence within themselves, right? If you're not even at that place within yourself. And I was like, wow. So I started to realize, people like that, like, these people who I thought were bad, I don't even know them, right? But I had this idea in my head that they were bad people. I thought, okay, well, what if they're just, maybe what if they're not, right? What if they're just doing whatever they think is the best thing to be doing with their level of awareness? And if I can come at it from that frame and I can go, they're not intentionally bad people, but maybe they're doing things that I don't agree with, but maybe they're just at a different level of awareness. And if I'm really compassionate and understanding, I can understand that, right? If you look at like a lot of those people, they look very unhealthy as well. They're all kind of like overweight and stuff like that. So what if I had compassion for them? And like, what if I went, maybe they just don't know any better, or maybe that's just the level of awareness that they have, or the conditioning that they have. Maybe they're hurting, right? Maybe they've got their own traumas that are unresolved. And if I can come at it from that angle, I can start to have acceptance and compassion and go, okay, cool. Not what I would do, but that's what they're doing and that's how it is. And if I can hold compassion for them, it's going to at least neutralize the feelings that I had within myself. And this is a big thing that I coach a lot of my clients on, right? Anyone who's like frustrated, angry, anxious, feeling guilty, feeling ashamed, doubting themselves, like really with low self-worth, low self-belief. These are all these internal things. We often try to attach them to external situations or circumstances, right? But they're all internal feelings. And so a big thing for me to fix my relationship with money was to actually come into understanding and compassion for the external things that I was, linking to my relationship with money. And after I did that, after I got comfortable with the mining moguls and the politicians, I got comfortable with my own relationship with money and how I could potentially, have a better relationship with money. Because if these people who I don't agree with are using all of this crazy money to do all of these kinds of things, and I'm just wanting to get some money to help people with like, their inner struggles and to end their suffering, like surely that's that's something that's valid, right? If they're earning all this money for like, mining the land and all this kind of stuff, like surely I can earn some money for helping people. And so I was able to come up into a place of like acceptance of that. And I realized, oh yeah, okay, cool. There's people out there earning all sorts of money for doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And all I'm doing is I want to help people. So, I can charge for that, right? If they're charging, crazy amounts of money for like things that are doing damage to the world, I can charge money for people for doing things that I believe are helpful for the world. And so that's kind of how I overcame the poverty mindset, or the lack mindset, or the not enough mindset. It's really like a victim mindset where it's always blaming someone else. Oh, because of them, like I'm so, right? But it's not about the external person. It's not about anyone else outside of yourself. It's really about your own relationship with yourself. That's what I realized as well. So I come up into a higher vibration within myself, like a frequency of compassion and understanding and love, as opposed to anger, frustration, anxiety. And that was when I started to really be comfortable charging for my services and earning more money and actually keeping that money, right? So that's really like a bit of the mindset and identity work as well, because I had this old identity where I was this like environmentalist and this kind of like peace and love kind of guy, and really this like soft kind of like feminine kind of guy. Really, I was people pleaser and victim. Everything was always someone else's fault. How dare they do that? You know what I mean? So I shifted that within myself, and I came into a more masculine frame by doing that as well, right? I connected my head and my heart. I made sense of things properly, and I was able to actually then go and move into a much more confident frame, a much more like abundant energy, which was, the difference between, let me just make this really, really clear. The difference between, this kind of like poverty mindset and the abundance mindset is someone who is in a poverty mindset feels like there is never enough. Never enough, not good enough, never enough. I don't have time. I don't have this. I don't have that. It's always there's not enough. That's the thinking. That's the feeling. Never enough. And it doesn't matter if it's true or not in the external reality, in the physical reality. It's like, how do you feel inside? Do you feel like there's never enough? Or do you feel like I'm in overflow? There is enough. Just they're over there doing that. I can do it as well. I think there's enough. I have enough time. I have boundaries. I have I have everything that I need. And it's really a belief system. And you'll talk to different people and you'll be able to see it in them. People who really use words like, I don't have enough time. They're always making excuses. There's never enough money. There's never enough this. It's always someone else's fault. That's like a victim mindset. And it's really like a poverty mindset. It's a scarcity mindset. If you imagine you have you've got a handful of blueberries, right? But that's all you've got, and there's no more blueberries, and you can't, there's no way to get more blueberries, right? And so you don't want to give them away. You don't want to share your blueberries because you're in this poverty mindset of like, there's not enough. I've only got this many blueberries, right? But if you're in an abundance mindset, you've got a handful of blueberries and you know that you have the ability to go and get more blueberries. You can you give them all away and you become more giving. Your energy is more generous. It's abundant, right? And so, there's enough time to go and find more blueberries. You have enough resources to organize the ability to get more blueberries. It's abundant. There's enough, right? So it's really the difference between this feeling of not enough and this feeling of there is enough to go around for everyone. And so I hope that makes sense, because it's really, really important. A lot of people have this not enough wound and they're not even aware of it. Right. And you'll be able to tell, because there'll be like this kind of victim energy around, their behaviors, their words, their language. And so a really important thing to do is be mindful of your own words and your own actions and your own behaviors, and just to really take an honest self-evaluation and go, am I coming from this energy of not enough? Or am I coming from an energy of like, there is plenty to go around, right? I have everything that I need. And so I'm going to move into more of the practical stuff now. But as a business owner, the one way that you can embody that energy of there is enough is by giving, right? Giving. So, I've been making content for years now, and just boom, content. At this point, I'm sharing pretty much everything that I know. There's no like secrets, right? Like everything that I know, I'm giving it away. Like it's giving, it's generous. And that's the kind of attitude. I've actually done like a lot of giveaways in the last couple of years. I give my clients money when they hit certain levels in our coaching program. Like giving, you might have heard this before, right? But you get what you give. And so when you want to be in abundant energy, you got to give, right? Give without expectation. Just give, just keep giving, right? And it's like a reciprocal kind of energy. If I do get into the spirituality side of things, right, and the esoteric side of things and the metaphysical side of things, I honestly believe that there's a divine balance in the world, right? And you if you give, you're going to get, because it's like the law of reciprocity, right? If you look at a tree has its roots in the earth, right? And then it has its leaves up above in the sky, right? Through the seasons, the tree drops its leaves, right? In winter, the tree will drop its leaves, and then the leaves will get like, they will disintegrate, and they will go into the earth, and that will be nutrients for the roots. And then boom, energy back up, right? It's like this flow. I lived on a farm for a little while, and I saw that firsthand. There was these banana trees, and we would chop off the dead like leaves, and we would just leave them on the ground, and then they would disintegrate and they would go into the earth, and then that would be the energy for the roots and for the banana tree to keep growing. And it was like you saw this in many different kind of, like many different scenarios with the like nature, right? And it can be as simple as something like the tide. The tide goes in and the tide goes out. There's this like universal law of reciprocity. And so when you give, you get. And it's just a part of that universal law. And I honestly believe that. Amanda, you got to bounce. All good. I'll send the recording out after this, no worries. So that's that. Now let's go to the business strategy side of things, right? Because this is the next step, which I think is like really, really important. There's a specific set of tasks that I've done every single day for the last 3 years, which I believe have come into, my success with the business. So there's really two things that are important, right? Content, like I just said. If you want to run an online business, like content is a great thing to be doing. So in my content, I will share stories, I will share frameworks, I will share processes, I will share things I know, I will share things that are helpful for people, I will share things that are inspiring for people, I will share things that are motivating for people. And I do that every day, daily content, right? If you do daily content, that's step one. It's going to help you find your voice, right? It's going to really help you to develop your message, right? And that's going to really pay dividends and compound over the long term, right? Now, the second thing that I do is outreach. I do daily outreach. And some people are funny about this, like, I don't want to message people. But the way I see it, I'm building relationships. Every day I send a certain amount of messages to people. And the people that I'm messaging are people who watch my stories, people who engage with my stuff, people who like my stuff, people who comment, people who reply to things when I say like I'm doing something. They you should hit me up, and they reply, and I talk to them, and I build relationships. And the way that I do that is I try to add value first. Right? I try to give them something. So at this point, I've got a YouTube channel where I make helpful videos in long form content. So the way that I'll do this is with my outreach. On platforms like Instagram, for example, I'll reach out to people, I'll talk to people, maybe like 20 messages a day. At the moment, I'm doing more like 40 or 50 messages a day, but my business is growing. In the beginning, I did 20 messages a day. And I'll just say like, what's going on? And here's the helpful thing that you can have, right? And I usually won't ask anything of them like straight away. I'll usually just try and give some value first. Like I said, give. And then eventually I'll try to move the conversation towards an offer that I can make, right? And that's literally how I've grown my business. I did daily content, I did daily messages. Now I'm going to finish this off by actually showing you a couple of things that will be helpful for you to see. So a bit more tangible, right? I have literally got a few spreadsheets that I use every single day for my business, right? So this is the Instagram page. You can see there's 844 posts. So yeah, that's like a constant posting for like years. Now I have this daily KPIs sheet. So every day I've got this basically sheet, which is I track myself. And if you guys know, if you're a business owner, one of the hardest things to manage is your own time, right? Because it's so easy to just do all this random stuff. So I try to just track my tasks every day. I track when I wake up, I do my meditation, I do my lead tracking, I do sales, I do some writing, I do exercise, breakfast, study, calls, lunch, create content, calls, finish work, dinner, bedtime, right? So those are the things that I kind of track every day, and I'm pretty meticulous about it. And then I'll also track like how many new followers I got, how many messages did I send, how many leads have I got, how many videos have I sent out, like how many long form videos have I sent out, how many calls did I take, how many offers did I give, how many new clients did I get, and I'll also track how much revenue I received, right? And then I've also got how many YouTube videos did I do, email newsletters, Instagram post, Facebook post, Spotify podcast. So this is KPI. These are my daily KPIs, and I've got some targets over here as well, right? So I'm literally tracking this, and like everyone that I work with knows that this is like something that I'm encouraging them to do, because this is how I built my business. There's a few key things I do every day. Do the inner work. So I do my inner work to make sure I'm staying at like a high vibration and also staying clear on what I want to achieve. So I have like that end goal in mind, and every day I'm reminding myself of it. I also make it a priority to book strategy sessions. So book calls with people. And then I make it a priority to do the strategy sessions. And then finally, I have the fourth one, which is provide high quality service, right? That's if I do those 4 things, I'm good. I just remind myself to do those every day. Now, that's that. That's the KPI tracking sheet. I use that. I can give that to you if you want. Just send me a message and I'll give that to you. I have templates and stuff like that. Then there's also lead tracking sheet. So this is just an example lead tracking sheet. I'm not going to show you my actual one because privacy. But you can see down the bottom, right, full lead list down here. So in this little full lead list, I have like thousands of people's names, and it kind of goes like this, but obviously not like this. But I'll just write their name, their phone number, their email, last time I contacted them, did they attend, what's some notes. So after this webinar, I'm going to go and get, all of the names of people who attended this webinar or registered for the webinar, and I'm going to put them in here. And then I'll probably send a follow-up message saying, hey, here's the replay, right? Because there's a few people who haven't been able to show up that are going to get the replay. So I'll send that out after this, right? And I'll track that all in this sheet here. So this sheet, the lead tracking sheet, and the daily KPIs are everything that I've built my business on. It's not complicated. It's like, do these 2 things: content daily, content daily, messages daily, book calls daily. And everything else in here is basically just my own personal well-being, right? Because as a business owner or as a leader, you need to have yourself in check. I need to be holding myself to a high standard and a high level of integrity, if I want to be, especially coaching, right? So that's that. Now, I'm going to show you my calendar. My calendar is a bit hectic, but this is my calendar because this is the 3rd tool that I have, right? This is my calendar, right? And I track literally things to the hour, sometimes even half an hour. So I just wanted to show you that because that's another thing that I've had that's really helpful. So this is the calendar for this week, but I'll be booking in calls this week for next week, right? I've got my tasks in blue. I've got my potential sales in green. I've got my lunch break then, and I've got I finish off the day with content and family time. Try to knock off at 4 o'clock so Missy doesn't get upset with me. So that's that, right? And I kind of have Instagram as my primary platform. Now, because my account got disabled recently, I'm now thinking, okay, I'm going to be more active on Facebook as well and have my email list cranking as well because you can't, if your Instagram account goes down, it's kind of shit. So that's kind of that's like a full overview, right? That's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. I think we've covered, the number one thing that I think would be successful, that I think is needed to be successful, and that is to not be too feminine. Integrate your feminine and masculine, do things even when you don't feel like doing things. It doesn't mean that business needs to be hard, and it doesn't need to be a grind, and it doesn't need to be a hustle, but you do need to lean in when you feel uncomfortable. You do need to do things that put you out of your comfort zone, right? Don't just do things that feel good, because that, it's not necessarily going to be the best thing for you. Sometimes things that don't feel good are really, really good as well. Like going to the gym. Not every day I want to go to the gym. Not every day I want to do my meditation, but I do it because it's discipline. And, when it comes to business, if you want to have success, you need to be disciplined. So you need to integrate and do things even when they don't feel like doing them, right? The next thing we spoke about is how to shift from that poverty mindset to the abundance mindset, right? So really neutralizing any kind of negative dissociations you have with money or with feeling like you're not good enough. So there's a lot of kind of trauma healing work that I'll do with clients in this phase, because a lot of people have these deep embedded not good enough stories. And they are generally from childhood. It's generally a sense of identity about who you are. And so that sometimes requires some healing work. I'm actively doing healing work on the not good enough wound because I myself have had that in the past. And it's something that I'm continually trying to, work on resolving. So that takes, emotional intelligence, noticing the patterns of anxiety, noticing the patterns of anger and frustration and fear and pointing the finger and being worried, and then intentionally shifting them into more understanding, more compassion, more love, more acceptance, right? Those are the higher vibrations that will bring you up and out of those negative vibrations, right? And that's essential. If you want abundance is enoughness. It's there is enough. I am complete. I am whole, right? I am worthy. That's abundance. Poverty is like, I'm afraid, I'm scared, there's not enough, I don't have enough time, I can't do this. Like all of those kinds of thoughts, that's poverty thinking, right? So you have to shift that. And then finally, finished off with actually doing the things that need to be done, right? Tracking your time, managing your time with the calendar, following up with leads, keeping a track of all your leads, keeping your own like key performance indicators, all those kinds of things are very, very helpful. So that is pretty much the crux of it all. Those are the three main points that I wanted to cover today, and I feel like I've gone over them. I'm going to keep it open for questions if you guys have any questions for the last 5 or 10 minutes. But yeah, thank you for tuning in and watching this. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I hope that it was helpful. So yeah, let me know if there's any questions or anything like that. You can pop them in the chat box, or you can just ask me. And yeah, that'll be it for the session today. We finished up a little bit sooner than expected, but that's good. I feel like we covered everything in a pretty clear and concise and potent way. So that's good. April, thanks so much. Always love it. Yep. Epic. Love, love sharing. So I hope that's helpful for you, and hopefully you're getting the business going. Yeah, like I said, I'll reach out to you and just see what's going on after this and check in, see where you're at. And Hugh, hopefully you got something out of this as well, man. I know we just talked a little while ago, but I think this is going to be super, super helpful for you, super valuable. So that's it, guys. I appreciate you being here. I'll send out the replay after this. And yeah, I'm looking forward to 2024. Hope you guys are as well. Hopefully you're setting some pretty clear goals and you've got a pretty clear plan for how to enable those goals. If you do want some help with that, if you do want coaching, if you do want some support, then reach out to me. I have a couple of one-on-one spots I'm going to open up specifically for the start of 2024, smaller windows, right? Usually I do 6 months one-on-one coaching and it's about $5,000. I'm going to have a special offer at the start of the year where I'm going to offer 5 spots, just 5 like one-on-one spots for 3 months of coaching, and it's going to be $3,000. So the idea is we set one specific goal that you want to work towards. So for example, if you do want to get to $10,000 a month, we would work on that as a specific goal for the first 3 months of the year. And that would be the one specific thing that we would focus on. And hopefully we'll get you there, right? That's the idea. That's the intention, to implement a plan, to execute on the goal that you want to achieve in the first 3 months of the year. Yeah. How about the groups? Yeah, how the group works is we basically, April's asking this, by the way, what about your groups? Yeah, I have group coaching, right? So you might have seen the other day we had our Christmas party. Hugh was there. That was epic. So basically, I have a community called the Conscious Creator Community, and that's with all my coaching clients. Everyone has different goals, and we have weekly group coaching calls every Monday. And then from there, we also have like a curriculum. There's different modules. There's a self-mastery program. There's a healing program, like for trauma healing. There's also a conscious business accelerator. So some of the stuff that I spoke about today, there's a lot of like modules and processes and frameworks and how to actually implement more of that stuff, which is all in there. People can either pay in full for a yearly membership, or they can pay on a monthly basis. So that's basically it. For the yearly membership, it's $5,000. If you wanted to pay on a month-to-month basis, it's $499. So $499 a month. And same thing, everyone has their unique goals in there. We meet for coaching on Monday for every week. There's also another call on Wednesday, which is like a live Q&A call. And I also run different kind of workshops and challenges. We just finished what was called the Conscious Cash Challenge, which was a 14-day Instagram launch pad. So basically for people who wanted to like build and launch their offering with Instagram, we did a 14-day content challenge for that. We'll also do like different kinds of challenges for healing and shifting their energy and, different kind of mindset trainings and stuff like that. And yeah, that's a really awesome community. It's a really awesome vibe. I'll show you quickly actually just what it looks like while we're here. So I was going to show you this. This is just what I was talking to with Hugh actually before we jumped on this call. Like I said, there's different processes and frameworks in here. I showed you the basics with the KPIs and the lead tracking list, but there's also what I call the hot list here, which is a great way to get your first clients. That's what I did to get my first clients. Here's the Conscious Cash Challenge. There's a whole bunch of different stuff in the classroom, welcome, the self-mastery program, the healing series. All the replays from the calls are in here. The Conscious Business Accelerator is here. There's also some bonus trainings as well, which is pretty fun. So there's a bunch of different, like people will ask me questions and I will just make videos on those things that they ask me. So for example, someone asked me about time management. I made a video about that. People ask me about Instagram. I make stuff about that. Business systems, Google tips and tricks, all that kind of stuff. Random questions I'll add in as bonus trainings. And like I said earlier in this call, I give everyone $100 when they get level 4. So there's a leaderboard and you can level up. And when you get to level 4, I give you $100 cash prize. And so that's just a bit of a fun kind of incentive for people to be engaged in the community. So there's also this community page here, right? So different people will post different things in here. And it's just a bit of fun. Like it's a bit more like of that sense of community. People are on the same kind of path. A lot of different entrepreneurial type people who are working towards building businesses and really growing and kind of taking things to the next level. So yeah, April, if you're interested in that, we can obviously talk about that. It'd be cool to have you in the community. Next year, I'm going to run a lot more like in-person events because it was just such a good vibe on Sunday. So definitely excited to run some more of them next year. And if you want to come into the community next year, you get access to all of those events. Those are free events for the community. No one had to pay anything to be there. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. And if you do have anything that you want to talk about, of course, you can always send me a message. So thanks, guys, and have a nice day.